Imagine a time before the Americas were on any map. Europeans lived their entire lives unaware of this vast land and its people. Then in 1492, everything changed. Christopher Columbus, searching for a new route to the east, stumbled upon the Caribbean islands. This discovery set off a chain reaction. Ambitious explorers, driven by gold and glory, set sail across the Atlantic. These conquistadors, as they were known, saw a chance for wealth and power in this new world. Little did they know their arrival would forever alter the course of history for two continents. The Spanish, in particular, were drawn to South America. Rumors of golden empires hidden within lush jungles spread like wildfire. These tales, whispered among sailors and adventurers, promised unimaginable riches to those brave enough to seek them out. And so, the stage was set for one of the most dramatic clashes of civilizations the world had ever seen. The conquistadors arrived on shores they believed to be theirs for the taking. But the native inhabitants of South America were prepared to defend their homelands. They were fierce warriors, skilled hunters, and astute strategists. What they didn't realize was the true nature of the threat they faced. Two names stand out in the bloody history of the Spanish conquest: Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro. These men, driven by ambition and a thirst for gold, became symbols of Spanish dominance in the New World. Their exploits, though marked by brutality, are central to understanding how a relatively small force of Europeans conquered vast empires. Cortés, a cunning strategist, set his sights on the Aztec Empire in what is now Mexico. He landed on the coast in 1519 with a small army. Through a combination of audacity, ruthlessness, and a good deal of luck, he managed to topple one of the most powerful empires in the Americas. Pizarro, equally ambitious, turned his attention south to the Inca Empire in the Andes Mountains. In 1532, he led a force into the heart of the Inca Empire. Like Cortés, he exploited internal divisions and used his technological advantages to devastating effect. These two conquistadors, though separated by geography and circumstance, shared a common trait, an unyielding determination to conquer. Their names, forever etched in the annals of history, serve as a reminder of the transformative and often destructive power of ambition. The Spanish conquistadors arrived in South America with more than just ambition. They brought with them technological advantages that tipped the scales in their favor. To the indigenous people, these advancements must have seemed like magic, reinforcing the idea that these newcomers were not to be trifled with. Horses, for example, were unknown in the Americas before the arrival of the Spanish. These powerful animals, bred for war in Europe, gave the conquistadors a significant advantage in battle. The sight of a mounted warrior charging into battle with lance lowered struck fear into the hearts of the bravest native warriors. Then there were the firearms. The roar of cannons and the deadly crack of muskets were entirely foreign to the indigenous populations. These weapons, capable of inflicting horrific casualties from a distance, turned many battles into one-sided massacres. Steel armor, swords, and crossbows further enhanced the Spanish advantage. While the indigenous people fought with courage and ferocity, their weapons and tactics were ill-suited to counter the technological might of the conquistadors. The result was a clash of two worlds, with one side tragically outmatched from the start. While horses and guns played a significant role in the Spanish conquest, there was another, more insidious factor at work: disease. The arrival of Europeans in the Americas unleashed a wave of deadly pathogens against which the indigenous populations had no immunity. Smallpox, measles, influenza. These diseases, common in Europe, ripped through the Americas with terrifying speed. Entire villages were decimated, their populations weakened and demoralized. The social and political structures of empires, already strained by the arrival of the conquistadors, crumbled in the face of this invisible enemy. The Inca, for example, were in the midst of a civil war when Pizarro arrived. This internal strife, coupled with the devastating impact of smallpox, weakened their ability to resist the Spanish invaders. The Aztecs too suffered catastrophic population loss due to disease, making their eventual defeat at the hands of Cortés all but inevitable. The role of disease in the conquest of the Americas cannot be overstated. It was a silent killer, more deadly than any sword or musket. It paved the way for the Spanish conquest, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. Section 5. The fall of empires Tenochtitlán and Cajamarca. The fall of the Aztec and Inca empires highlights the brutality of the Spanish conquest. Military force, technology, and disease led to their collapse. In 1521, Cortés captured Tenochtitlan with indigenous allies. The city lay in ruins. In 1532, Pizarro trapped Atahualpa at Cajamarca. The Inca ruler was ambushed and captured. These events marked a turning point in South America. The age of indigenous civilizations ended, replaced by Spanish rule. Section 6. Treasures and Tears. The Spoils of Conquest. The conquistadors, driven by a thirst for gold, found it in abundance in the Americas. The temples and palaces of the Inca and Aztec empires were plundered. Their treasures shipped back to Europe to fill the coffers of the Spanish crown. Silver mined from the mountains of Potosi in present-day Bolivia flowed across the Atlantic in a seemingly endless stream. This influx of wealth transformed Spain, fueling its rise as a global power. But this newfound prosperity came at a terrible cost, paid for in the blood and suffering of the indigenous populations. The conquest of South America was a brutal affair, marked by massacres, enslavement, and the destruction of entire cultures. Millions of indigenous people perished, victims of war, disease, and forced labor. Their land, seized by the victors, was transformed into vast estates worked by enslaved Africans. The wealth extracted from South America enriched the Spanish crown and fueled European expansion. But the human cost of this conquest, the millions who suffered and died, casts a long shadow over this period of history. Section 7. A continent transformed. The Spanish conquest of South America was not just a military victory, it was a cultural and demographic earthquake. The arrival of the Europeans, with their language, religion, and customs, forever altered the fabric of life in the Americas. The Spanish language became the dominant tongue in much of South America, a testament to the enduring legacy of the conquest. Christianity, spread by zealous missionaries, took root, often forcibly replacing indigenous belief systems. The blending of European and indigenous cultures created a new hybrid society, marked by both assimilation and resistance. The introduction of new crops and livestock from Europe transformed the landscape and the diets of South America. Horses, cattle, and sheep, previously unknown, became integral to the economy and way of life. The exchange went both ways, with crops like potatoes and tomatoes making their way from the Americas to Europe, forever changing global cuisine. The Spanish conquest reshaped the demographics of South America. The decimation of indigenous populations, coupled with the arrival of African slaves, created a complex racial hierarchy that continues to influence social relations in the region today. Section 8. Echoes of the Past. The echoes of the Spanish conquest still resonate in South America today. The ruins of ancient cities like Machu Picchu and Teotihuacan stand as silent witnesses to the power and sophistication of the civilizations that once flourished there. They serve as a reminder that the history of South America is not just a story of conquest, but also one of resilience, adaptation, and cultural survival. The descendants of the indigenous populations, though often marginalized, continue to keep their traditions and languages alive. From the Andes Mountains to the Amazon rainforest, communities are working to reclaim their heritage and assert their rights in the face of ongoing challenges. The legacy of the conquest is a complex and often painful one. It is a history marked by violence, exploitation, and cultural destruction. But it is also a story of survival, adaptation, and the enduring spirit of the indigenous populations who call South America home. As we look back on this tumultuous period, it is important to remember both the victims and the victors, the conquerors and the conquered. Only by acknowledging the full complexity of the past can we hope to build a more just and equitable future for all. Section 9. Legacy of the Conquistadors. The legacy of the conquistadors is a double-edged sword. They connected continents and cultures, exchanging knowledge, goods, and ideas. But their arrival brought destruction and exploitation to indigenous populations. Forced conversion, new diseases, and brutal labor systems left a lasting impact. The Conquest is a reminder of human ambition's dark side. It urges us to learn from the past and strive for a just future. The echoes of conquest still shape social and economic inequalities today.